What's up, everyone? Welcome to the first lesson of 3D Plus AI Masterclass. Today we are starting off pretty nice and chill. We'll discuss the topic of creative upscaling, creative upscalers, creative enhancers, however you want to call them. I believe by now everyone knows a thing or two about them. But regardless, today we are leveling the playing field, sharing what it is, how to approach it, and some hidden tips and tricks to use in our commercial works. So yeah, without further ado, let's get at it. Okay, so what do we mean by a creative upscaler? Basically, it's a tool which increases the resolution of an image. It can turn a 2K image into a 4K image, 8K image, whatever. You get more resolution, everything looks sharper, more refined. And here's the best part. A creative upscaler can actually add new details that weren't there before. As it scales up the image, it can either add subtle details or completely transform the image, depending on our needs. And the difference can be quite shocking. As you can see here, the low poly image turns into something completely different, almost photorealistic. It's like a sorcery. All that literally with a single click, as you're about to see in a moment. Here we have a different example, something more lifelike. A classic Evermotion rendering from a decade ago. It's super solid in terms of composition and details and all of that, but it lacks the high quality models we are used to having today. There's all sorts of problems we had back then, like weird tints and weird HDRIs, but anyway, creative upscalers can give a major upgrade to this image. They can add organic elements like water, stones, trees, and the scene looks much richer and more immersive. No one can deny it looks better afterwards, and having that magic button is seriously convenient. Even with high quality images, those upscalers can still squeeze a little bit of that extra something. Even here, with these charming pancakes, we get an extra layer of details. They are almost beyond our perception. Before, it felt a little bit CG, but now those tiny details shine through, especially on the honey and the raspberries. We add that extra 3% of production value on top, which is borderline impossible in 3D. Working with these upscalers opens a whole lot of possibilities, from completely redefining an image to making subtle, almost cosmetic tweaks. And with that in mind, we will explore both the dramatic transformations and subtle enhancements. You'll see that in action all throughout the training. Anyway, there are many creative upscalers on the market. There will be many to come. I bet some of them for free at some point, but as of time of the recording, our go-to is magnific.ai. Type magnific.ai in the browser and that's it. We use it quite extensively. But feel free to use any upscaler you're comfortable with, Krea, ComfyUI, whatever works for you. We will share some general tips and logic behind creative upscaling, so you'll be able to apply it anywhere. Okay, so let's see how it looks in practice. This is our Mediterranean scene. Spoiler alert, we'll cover lots of exciting stuff in this scene. We'll go to materials, we'll cover the lighting, we'll even go to tone mapping, but that's later to come. Anyway, this scene is pretty solid in 3D. But it also is a great case for creative upscaling. We've got plaster, we've got wood, rustic elements, plants, and most importantly, we have people and animals. So a lot of good things can happen here. There might be some issues as well, but we will see how it works in practice. So we go to magnific.ai. This is where the magic happens. There's a couple of options here, but don't worry, we won't go through all of them. We will share our basic setup first, really fast, and later on we'll go into some nitty-gritty stuff, some tips and tricks, and additional tests if you're interested. Anyway, around 90% of the cases, what happens is we just select the upscaler, drag and drop the image, and bam! Next, we select the model as film and photography, because we want our images to look like photographs, right? We leave the prompt empty for now, but more on that later. We set the creativity to 3 and HDRI to -1. Scroll down, choose upscale, and we are done. This is literally almost every case that we do. It will process the image, it will think a little bit, and the larger the image, the longer it will take, and the more credits it will use. And naturally, the smaller the image, the faster and cheaper it is. Fast forward and voila. The image is done. We can check out the before and after. And at first glance, it's looking much more attractive, right? You can hold Z and use the middle mouse button to scroll, check out the details. It's quite nice. It's not perfect as well. There's some spots where it starts to hallucinate. There's some bricks that we didn't have before, but we don't worry about it right now. We also have some big problems. I mean, a big of a horror situation here, to be honest, but we'll deal with that shortly. Despite the hiccups, there's still a lot we can work with. So the next step is to download the image, either a PNG or a JPEG, and putting it on top. We recommend always applying a black mask right after dropping it. It's a good habit, even though sometimes you forget about it, but regardless, you can hold left Alt and click on the mask here. It goes full black, and this way you can review specific parts while keeping an eye on what happens on the details. We need to be very, very vigilant and avoid painting in anything weird. That's why starting with a black mask is safer and smarter move. You can already notice really cool things happening, more fidelity and overall punch, and with that, we are done with the generic pass. Well done, you. Don't forget to compliment yourself every now and then. And moving on, we can tackle some problematic areas. Remember the dog situation? Yeah, not ideal. So the next step is working on smaller areas. We know that working with Magnifique and smaller ridges can be annoying, but there's a really cool and handy trick. So you can choose the rectangular selection tool, select an area, for example, this girl, press Ctrl J to duplicate it, and bam! Photoshop will create additional layer with just that selected part that will come pretty handy in just a moment. We will do the same with the dog. Ctrl J, boom. And now let's select both of those layers. Right click, quick export as PNG, choose the folder, and done. We have saved those images into separate files. And the best part, they've been cropped to the actual selection. No empty transparent pixels outside, which is pretty convenient. So yeah, sweet. With that done, we are ready to start upscaling them again. We come back to Magnifique, drag the image, and at this point, I think we can use the prompts. We can start guiding it a little bit. So let's say it will be a young girl smiling. Okay. We also add the dog and put the dog sitting viewed from behind. Fast forward, dog looks really cool. Perhaps there's a slight problem near the ear, but I think that's okay. We might not even use this area. As for the girl, she turned out great. Honestly, I thought I wouldn't get lucky on the first go, but hey, I will take it. That's not always the case though. With people, it's, a hit or a miss. But if something goes wrong, the easiest way to go around it is to increase the upscale from 2 times to 4 times or even 8 times. This should get perfect results practically every time, but don't worry about it now. We'll cover some tips and tricks for handling people later on in the next lesson. And now the next thing, we need to simply download these images and merge them with our rendering. We head back to Photoshop, and another trick. If you want to perfectly match the position of an upscaled image, hold left Ctrl, click on a layer to make an automatic selection, and drag and drop our upscaled image. The image will land in the center of selection, and since we upscaled it twice, we needed to divide 100 by 2, which means I should type 50 here. And bam, the image snaps perfectly into the place. Now we can delete the old layer so everything is nice and tidy. We do exactly the same with the dog. Hold left Ctrl, drag the image, set it to 50%, delete it, and done. So now we will just focus on painting in some juicy details. We use a soft brush, we run it in background. Same process for the girl. And that's it. With this approach, you can target any area you want. You can create sub-layers, export them to PNGs, play with prompts, upscale, and bring them back. Yeah, that's pretty nice and sweet. And okay, maybe before we wrap up this lesson, I want to mention one last thing. Sometimes there's a problem with the upscales. They kind of get sharp. if we take a closer look, we can notice there's a certain difference between the render and what Magnifique provides. And yeah, sometimes this difference is pretty significant, sometimes it's barely visible, some people will refer to it as an HDR effect, and it can be a real issue. We will dive deeper into this issue in the lessons of shading, lighting later on, but for now, if certain areas feel blurry, we can address them with this last little trick. And the easiest way to do it is with the camera raw. We can convert the layer to a smart object and then apply camera raw. We can go to clarity, increase it a bit, and you'll immediately see that the image is gaining a punch, similar to Magnifique. At the same time, our shadows are going down, so we can lift them a little bit, accept, and now everything looks much more uniform and cohesive. You can apply clarity to the whole image or mask some parts out, that's for you to choose. Simple and effective, and that's about it. Fantastic, we are done with today's lesson. As we said, we are starting off pretty nice and chill and easy, showing the basics. Next up, we go a bit deeper to creative upscaling, more tests, more tips and tricks and cool examples. So thanks and see you there.